My Lords, it's a pleasure to follow the Noble Lady Baroness Worthington and to partly agree and partly disagree with her comments. And I rise to speak in strong opposition to the Government Amendment 58, which is the substantive amendment in this group, buried in the depths of a whole lot of technical detail. And I think it's worth really focusing on what this amendment actually does. And the Noble Lord the Minister did say this in his introduction, but I think it really deserves to be highlighted. The Noble Lord the Minister acknowledged these are not renewable sources of energy. But what we are doing here is treating them as though they are renewable. And I think that's an important distinction which really very clearly needs to be made. And I think it's quite significant. As the Noble Lord Ravensdale said earlier, we have been debating this bill for 8 months or so. And, of course, the second element of this government amendment, referring to nuclear-derived fuels, does reflect something the Noble Lord Ravensdale brought to committee. But so far as I can recollect across those 8 months, recycled carbon fuels have suddenly popped in here at this report stage without any previous debate at all. And now that's something I think in terms of scrutiny and examination presents an issue, and that's an issue that the other place, when this bill reaches them, may well lead to look at and consider in some detail, given that Your Lordship's House has not had the opportunity to look at the recycled carbon fuel with some of the issues that the Noble Lady Baroness Worthington just raised, and which I'm going to expand on a little bit. And I think it's worth highlighting, first of all, going to the nuclear-derived fuels. This is now an extremely hot political issue, no pun intended, hot political issue in Europe. Germany, Spain and Denmark are among the countries that are opposed to nuclear-derived fuel being classed as renewables there, in a debate which is actually going on this very week as we're meeting now in Your Lordship's House. And the opposition from those states say that nuclear energy does not belong within renewable targets, and that there is a risk of this focus of calling this, treating it as though it's renewable, will undermine the massive expansion of renewables that we need to hit our climate goals. So this is a replacement type issue. And that raises a very important point, which is when I rise and speak in opposition to this amendment, I'm not necessarily saying that we should not to a limited way be using recycled carbon fuel as the kind of industrial waste type that the Noble Lord Ravensdale referred to, or even while we have the nuclear plants, nuclear-derived fuel. The question is whether it receives treatment as though it was a renewable when it is not a renewable. That's the question that arises from this amendment. So coming to the issue of the recycled carbon fuel, there are some very grave concerns, as the Noble Lady Baroness Worthington raised, about burning fossil fuel wastes and particularly plastics in incinerators or in hydrolysis processes to produce fuels. I can quote some figures on this. When municipal solid waste containing 65% of non-biodegenic waste, which is usually mostly plastic, is turned into fuel, then the emissions range is between 52.6 carbon dioxide equivalents per megajoule to 124 units. When the waste is all non-renewable, then the impact is actually worse than conventional diesel, petrol or kerosene. Even when there are some reductions, at best they're 1 to 4%. Now, we also come to a broader issue, which is, and here I can quote the Noble Lord Lansley, who I see is not in his place, but yesterday in the Levelling Up Bill was expounding the virtues of the circular economy. And of course, in a circular economy and thinking about the waste pyramid, the best thing we can possibly do is reduce the amount of waste. And there's a risk if we're providing a way out at the other end for plastics, a way that's subsidised as though they are renewables. This could encourage the production of more plastics, which is absolutely the last thing this planet needs, both for climate reasons and all of the other reasons of human health and well-being and microplastics, all of the issues we have on a planet that's choked with the stuff already. Now, there's also, of course, the problem that whilst recycling is the third best option, or indeed a bad option but not as bad as the others on the waste pyramid, anything that encourages the production of more plastics is an issue. Now, I'm aware also that the Noble Lord the Minister, when we were earlier this month debating methane, the Noble Lord the Minister did complain that people keep quoting scientists at him. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to make no apology for continuing to do that, because I believe that we should have evidence-based policy that does rely on the science. So I'm going to quote a study that was published in Energy in 2017. The utilisation of oils produced from plastic waste at different pyrolysis temperatures in a DI diesel engine, which I apologise, my lords, is a bit of a mouthful. But to boil down the point of this study, it said there is different ways of doing pyrolysis with fuels made from plastic. But whichever way you do it, the air pollution results are worse than diesel. Now, many members of your Lordship's House will probably be aware that my noble friend Baroness Jones of Moulsecoomb has the Air Quality Human Rights Bill, which has been right through your Lordship's House and has received very wide backing. There is a real issue to be raised here. Climate is only one of the many threats and the issues that we face. Air pollution is a very serious issue. Essentially, we're in a position where it's very clear we have to stop burning stuff and polluting our planet, whether that's carbon dioxide pollution or other pollutants that come from burning fossil fuels, that come from burning organic materials. So there is a very grave danger in this amendment, I would suggest, my lords. Now, given where we are, this is clearly I'm not going to call for a vote on this. I don't think your Lordship's House is ready. I don't think we've had sufficient debate on this issue to do that. But I do very much hope that today's debate, and others may contribute as well, will be taken on board when the bill gets to the other place.